Good evening, America. I am the Big Red One Guy, reminding you that together we must break the machine. If you guys watched Monday's show on January 6th, I had some J6ers with us. I had Jesus Rivera, Hector Vargas, and Nick Searcy joined us as well to not only tell their stories of January 6th, but to tell us some of the stories of some of the individuals that can't tell their stories that are still unfortunately incarcerated and are political prisoners from our government. You've heard me rant on that show that night about how this is something that can never ever happen again. It is a stain on our nation, and we have to make sure that we address this and we hear all the stories. I made a pledge to them that I would bring other J6ers on the show and let them tell their stories without any interruption so that they don't have to worry about anything. So tonight we have a special guest. We have Siaka Massaquoi, father, patriot, husband, activist, you name it. He's got every single title, and he's going to tell his story on J6 tonight. So, without further ado, let me bring him in and say what's up to America. Siaka?
What's up, America? God bless America and God bless President Trump.
Absolutely. Yeah, definitely. That's a win that we got. We
Uh,
needed that badly.
tell me
We
about
we were
it.
speeding on that Marxist train right into the Marxist station.
Right.
It was America stepped up. That's something we'll touch bases with a little bit later too. I'm actually
You got my hat
interested
on?
in your view on
There we go.
on the African male vote that came out overwhelmingly and helped get him elected. So that's
Right.
something we discussed on one of the shows, the Latino vote, but like, especially Latin males. But it'd be interesting to get your take, but we'll get that later. So let's get into it, man. Let's start. Jesus and Hector started with where they were January 5th, and then they went into January 6th, and so on and whatnot. And obviously, we know what happened to you with the one of the three-letter mobs.
Right.
Uh, you know, coming at you and stuff like that. I believe you were at the premiere of what was it, Lady Ballers,
Yes,
something. You were
sir.
on your way home or something.
Yeah, my
So
wife and I were
anyway, go
flying
ahead and
back.
it's a shame, man, that they did that in front of your family. But anyway, I'll let you tell your story.
Yeah, but first of all, Eric, thank you for having me, brother. This is cool to get on here, and so totally appreciate being able to share my story with the audience, and ultimately it's the internet, so it's forever with the world. This is going to be stories that when my son is my age, they'll go back and hear from people like Hector and Jesus and myself and many others who've gone through this. But yeah, I was on January 6th, 2021. I had flown into DC to tell you the truth. The biggest reason why I was even there, because on the 5th I was in Los Angeles getting ready to leave. I was seeing this girl at the time who was super, MAGA and stuff, just like myself, and we were meeting up, and we stayed at the Marriott down across the street from the Freedom Plaza, and it was a mixture of like we're gonna meet up to hang out, and then also the fact that like I just kind of had a feeling this was going to be historical. I didn't know what was
Right.
going to happen. I didn't know what, but like because I was there about a few months earlier for a pro Trump rally, and it was like this was after the big one that had the huge fights, and
Right.
BLM and Antifa were jumping people. It was after that. And this
Right.
time it was just a lot more safe. Everyone was walking around. It felt like a big American festival. And and so this next one, I was like, I wanted to go back because I just kind of had that feeling inside my gut. It was going to be historic. I don't know what. And the second feeling I thought I had was that this would be great because everyone is going to have their own camera, right?
Right.
So, I'm an trained actor, and I've been in Hollywood up until a few months ago, almost 20 years in the industry. And I would like to think that I can spot media propaganda pretty clearly at this point in my life, and especially after 2016 and how they started to roll a narrative about Donald Trump. And I'm like, wait a minute, this is the guy you guys loved, who I didn't even like back in the day, back when he was an apprentice. I was like, oh, this guy's bombastic, he's arrogant, whatever. And I just saw what the media was doing. I'm like, oh, here we go. They're about to, because they also just came off of Obama couldn't his farts didn't even stink. So I was like,
I know.
something's
Yeah.
going on, right? And so I was thinking, man, everyone's gonna have their phone. They can't, in my naive mind, I'm like, they can't spin a narrative to say we're bad people because everyone's gonna have the different footage to show no, they're all lying. That was like really
Right.
what I thought about. So, get there, we hang out. Next day, we go down to right over by the Washington Monument because everything was super packed. You couldn't get close to the Rose Garden and everything. So we were further back. I remember seeing there was a big group of Filipinos who had like a huge sign for Donald Trump sitting. They may have been maybe about 150, 200 yards away from the actual Washington Monument. And so they were
Right.
they were sitting there and so I'm walking around taking pictures like it was just like joy. It was cold as all get out, but there was a lot of joy going on. And so,
Filipinos love this country, man.
oh, tell me about it.
They rub deep too.
Yeah, my godsons have they're both half Filipino, so I've had all the food, the
My
torta and
Yeah, my cousins. I have cousins that are half Filipino. So
oh
yeah,
yeah.
that adobo chicken or
Oh,
adobo pork is
double.
on
Oh
point.
man, I feel like Filipinos are just black Asians. That's just me though.
Yeah.
So
Anyway, I'm sorry.
yeah, my bad, my bad.
No, that's
Apologize to
my
any of
fault.
my black Malaysian Americans out there. But but yeah, no. So we're all hanging out. It was super cold, so after a while, for me anyway, I'm like, okay, I get it. At this point, I've watched almost anything I could watch on like the election stuff and what they're saying on stage and where to go from Giuliani to what was her name, the released the Kraken lady, Sidney
Oh,
Powell to
Sidney Powell. Yeah.
yeah, Sidney Powell to like all these different to Trump himself. So at this point, I've heard a lot of it over and over. So I wasn't really there to listen to a speech or listen to speeches just
Right.
because I knew it wasn't going to be anything new when it comes down to numbers. It wasn't going to be like the only thing I was waiting for is here it is, and we're going to the court. That was all I was maybe hoping would happen, but I didn't really think
Right.
that's where it was going to be. So when he made the statement, all right, patriotically and peacefully protest and let your voices be heard. So we start going over. We're heading over to the Capitol, but me and my lady friend were like, you know what? I'm like, dude, I'm good. I've been to a bunch of rallies. I'm not just standing out here in the cold. Let's go back to the hotel.
Right.
So I go back to the hotel and I'm always curious about anytime I go to like an event or I watch an event, I'm always curious. I turn the TV to the other side to see how they talk about it. And
Right. How they're
so,
covering it.
yeah, and so I was like, okay, let me go, and I probably chose the worst one, which was MSNBC, to see what they would say. And
Actually, it's
and
probably the best one because you know
yeah,
exactly what you're gonna get with them.
yeah, it was all sadness and morose and it's such a dark day. They're already starting to say that, right? And I was like, and I had just
Yeah.
like mind you, I had just left a group of peaceful people who were like singing, people were dancing, were
Yeah.
high-fiving people. And I went up to the hotel room, turned the TV on, and all of a sudden these people were saying it's a sad, somber day and it's, blood on the ground and I can't believe this is happening. I'm just like, it doesn't take me that long to get to my hotel because the hotel was on the way to the Capitol, so
Right.
we just pretty much stepped out, right? And so we were I was watching it, I seen a reporter talking, and I don't know, I got pissed off that the media just keeps lying. So I
Right.
told myself, I'm like, I'm gonna head down there, go find the camera crew, and stand behind them and be like that crazy dude who's like, "They lying, Trump 2020," like just trying to be obnoxious. Like that's what I was looking to do. I was like,
Right.
I'm gonna go down there and be
Just
obnoxious.
to disrupt their propaganda
Yeah,
and whatnot.
yeah, and then the other side too is to sit there with a MAGA hat and be a black dude on camera on MSNBC. I was like, yeah, that's gonna
Right.
really blow their brains up, right? Everyone's gonna get so like, whoa. And so I put my boots on. My lady friend stayed, and so I took off to head down. As I'm walking down, people are kind of meandering back and forth. Some are going down there, some are coming back. I did see two cop cars start to turn and go and drive up towards the Capitol, and I was like, oh, okay, well, And then I turned to somebody who was walking the other way. I go, did everyone leave? Is it over? And the people were just like, and mind you, my experience before was very similar to this experience. Like everyone meandering around, everyone's comfortable.
Right.
So I asked somebody, I was like, everyone leaving? They're like, nah, they're still up there. Everyone's still hanging out. It's like, okay. So I walk over, like not thinking anything of it. As I get closer to the Capitol, I actually bump into a couple of friends of mine from Los Angeles who used to go to the Beverly Hills rallies together all the time. And I turn, boom, I like literally in the crowd of all these people was just a random boom bump, like, oh, what's going on? And we were just like, hey man, I didn't know you were gonna be here. And some lady recognized us because we were doing work in LA, so they recognized us from like different videos. And she's like, "Can I interview you guys?" We're like, "Okay," as an older lady. So we start doing an interview. We're standing right by where the American flag was hanging over on the scaffold. So we're
Hmm.
standing pretty close to the stairs that go up there, but we're still a good ways away. And we're doing an interview, and it gets to the end of the interview exactly when the crowd started singing the national anthem. So mind you, at this point, I haven't seen anything violent. I haven't seen cops
Right.
tripping about anything. So now I'm bumping into some friends from LA. We did an interview, and now the national anthem's going. I'm like, wow, this is a pretty
The
amazing
moment.
day. Yeah, it's a
It's a
moment.
moment in history, right?
And so I started feeling like this is kind of like that moment that I was thinking that was going to happen. That's where I'm coming from. So the guys and I were like, hey, let's go up the scaffold here. So we walk up the stairs while some people are coming down, some people are going up. Now, as we get more to the top, I start to smell like pepper spray, like the remnants
Right.
of, not like it had been sprayed, but it wasn't like freshly sprayed. I
Right.
was like, wow, that's crazy. And then I looked up, and at the on the top of the Capitol, somebody had put, Trump won or something like that, or free America. They put some sign on the other side. They had flipped it
Right.
over, and I remember thinking to myself, how'd they get up there? Like that was something that I always was like, that's kind of weird. Like, how did people get all the way up inside and into
Yeah.
the roof of what's supposed to be one of the most secure buildings on the planet? Like, that doesn't make any sense.
Right.
So, I walk over, I go over to my left, and the other guys, at this point, I don't know what happened to the other guys. I see some cops standing on like a second level, and a bunch of protesters just kind of standing there. And some lady jumps up, being a little obnoxious on the cops, like not to fight them, but jumps up and turns her back and is like waving to the crowd. They shove her down, and then the guy starts
Wow.
spraying. I was like, oh my goodness, what? Like, and mind you, again, I've been to so many different rallies. I am not used to seeing Republicans being the ones that are attacked by the cops because they're doing any issue. Usually
Right.
it's very orderly in the sense like we listen to police officers. And so I walk around, I go to more of a clearing area. Then I start to walk up, and and this is part where I put this part in there because I know there was some nefarious actors, because the people I'm about to mention actually had a video of me later on, and that was one of the things that was like trying to use against me
Against you.
online to try to like ruin my reputation. So one guy comes up, and he's in all military fatigue with a little flak jacket and a bulletproof and like full face mask. And I'm just like walking around like, whoa. And the guy's like, hey man, I'm following you. I was like, all right, bro, like whatever. Like, not thinking, I'm just walking around anyway. And so come on, I was like, let's go over this way. So we walk over to it was the everyone's seen an infamous video where the guy's like breaking the window and he pulls it down.
Yeah.
And one guy tries to stop him, they pull it down.
Yeah.
I think it was the west side. I always get this mixed up, but I start heading to that area, not knowing what it was at the time, but heading to that area. I get to the doorway, and as we're walking towards the door, there's people going in, and it's kind of like if you're going into a packed concert or to a football game, like you're shoulder to shoulder, you're just kind of
Yeah. You're kind of
meandering
getting
back.
herded like cattle.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I think, and I have this video on a video. I'm like, is this where we're letting people in? And somebody's like, yeah. I'm like, okay. And so we're going there because I want to see what's going on. I have my phone out and everything. As I get to the doorway and I step foot into the doorway, about, man, maybe 2 feet, 3 feet or something like that. There was a police officer to my left, and he was standing there. And the people who were moving forward, it seemed like they kind of stopped, right? Like everyone just kind of stopped. No one was moving forward anymore. But like they had a cop here, and then against the wall, there were like, I couldn't tell you, maybe 15 cops just standing on the wall chilling. Again, this is why I'm thinking it's not that big of a deal, because the
Right.
police are standing inside a few feet away from me, just chilling against the wall. The cop standing here kind of looked like he's actually, again, like a security guard at a concert watching people come in, not trying to be like
Right.
stop or nothing. I'm standing there and I'm recording a little bit, and I reach in because at this point we kind of have this we're kind of stopped. And
There was a
somebody,
little so there was probably a little apprehension about people actually entering the building at first.
yeah, no,
That's why it stopped.
no, it seemed like it stopped as if they were like, all right, we're done, more than anything else.
Gotcha. Okay.
Not like, I can't believe we let people in. It's just kind of like, let's wait and see, no more. Cause again, they weren't, the cop I was standing, I turned to him, joking like, I heard the guy on Nancy Pelosi's office. Is that true? And he's like, I don't know, man. I was like, all right, like that was it. And I kind of like was cracking
Right.
jokes. And so people can see this on the Baked Alaska video. He was one of the videos that was making the rounds about me in a good way. But I turned towards that cop that was over there, recorded down the hallway a little bit where the cops were lined up, just standing there. I turned back to my right. A guy in full riot gear walks up and he's like, I need you guys to go that way now. And he's like pointing like this. And I'm just like, oh, okay. I'm like, look, we're being very reasonable. I'm going to tell them it's all right. I have some people, group of people standing behind me in the doorway. So I can't just walk backwards easy. I kind of
Right.
push my way
Right.
through. I'm like, okay, you're being reasonable. I crack a few more jokes. And I'm like, man, this is the most reasonable. What I said, joking, I was like, this is the most reasonable riot I've ever been a part of, huh? Just like,
Right.
like what? It's just silliness. So he tells me go back that way. I go, okay. I turn to the guys behind me. I go, guys, you got to go. We got to go back the other way. So it started everyone turning. So not
Yeah.
only did I listen to law enforcement when I was told not to be there, but I also, gave the instructions to the people behind me to do the
Right.
same thing.
Right.
So I go outside. I walk over to the side. That glass window that's broken, I'm recording that. And I'm like, wow. I'm like, man, people are pissed. I'm like, and it had some stickers on. I'm like, people put stickers on. I'm like, look, you shut people down for a year in their livelihood. And then you tell
Right.
them, the sky is green and that F you who you support, you're a terrible person. Like people are going to pop,
Yeah.
and then I saw a police officer, and he's kind of standing there in the window, like just kind of chilling out, looking back with his gas mask. And I'm like, hey man, I heard there's a 6 o'clock curfew. Or I was like, are you sticking around to help out with that? And he's like, nah. I go, yeah, you're done, huh? You're pretty much over it. That's somebody else's problem.
Right.
And kind of jokingly. And so I walk around. I see a bunch of other police officers to my left who are just standing there, like they're all in riot gear. They're standing there kind of like at attention if they would come move forward, but they never did. And I walked over to
Right.
them and I'm like talking. I'm like, dude, guys, like this is not about you guys. No one's against you or anything like that. It's just there's frustration going on. And that's what that
Right.
is. I'm like, we should all be together in this to be like, talking about something fishy happened. Like you guys are hiding. I go, I think I said like you guys are hiding behind. I'm not hiding. I even said my name. I was like, my name's Siaka Massaquoi. I'm not trying to hide from any of this, or anyone. Like this is just wrong. What's been going on? So then, they didn't move, didn't say anything. I was like, all right. So I turned and I was leaving. As I'm leaving, I start to run into a couple people that I've met before or seen online and stuff like that. Give them like we take a selfie or give them hugs and stuff. I keep going around towards the front of the Capitol. Now, two different moments when I was first coming up to the second layer and when I got to the front of the Capitol and I was leaving, I saw two things that reminded me of the Beverly Hills rallies. I saw two men on separate occasion, or one man on, one guy on each occasion, grab other men from behind and push them forward, saying "Let's go!" and like screaming crazy and trying to push other people forward.
Right.
Now, I think every man understands leaders don't push you forward; they lead the way. They
Right.
turn
They
to
lead
say
from the
follow.
front.
Exactly.
Yeah. Absolutely.
So that was something that was very
It's the follow me, not yeah, not pushing people and stuff like that.
Exactly, right? Like that's what the Russians did in World War II. They're like, if you turn back the other way, we're going to shoot you. So go back and face the
Right.
Nazis. And I was like, the reason why that stood out was because at Beverly Hills, we ended up the rallies got bigger and bigger and bigger. We started in June of 21 or sorry, June of 20, and it kept growing and growing. It got up to 10,000 the weekend before we were before the election. But this point, it was probably August or something. And I remember when Antifa decided to finally come down and the police had set up barricades separating us. And Antifa came down like in full like biker gear, like,
Yeah.
elbow shields, all that stuff, helmets.
Their stormtrooper regalia that they like
Yes.
to wear.
And are you a fan of Lord of the Rings by chance?
I'm a huge fan of Lord of the Rings. I read the Tolkien books and stuff like that. So yeah.
So remember when I am as well, but remember when the it was at Helm's Deep and the army was coming in and it was a
Yes.
darkness came over.
Yeah.
That's what happened. They were coming in across the street and you could just see like it was just a dark because they're all in black as well. It was all dark and we're sitting here in like bright red, white, and blue, shirts and hats and MAGA hats and stuff. So we're a very colorful group of people over here where they're all in all black with their helmets on and all and whatnot. And what I noticed was there were 2 or 3 people there who weeks earlier were there as Antifa trying to debate and start fight with us. But at this point,
Hmm.
they were in like full MAGA gear on our side, and I was like, and there was one kid I called coward because he tried to place something on someone else to fight for him, basically. And I saw it, and I was like, no, 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 no. This is your own problem. Face him like a man. Don't try to put it on someone else. So I had been calling him coward ever since he came back. Now this kid is wearing like a MAGA shirt, and I'm like, hey,
Yeah, I was about
coward.
to say. I was about to say. I don't mean to cut you off
No
because you're in the
problem.
middle of a story. So, from your experiences on some of the other rallies with Antifa and whatnot, okay, um, you recognize some of their faces. So, like when you're at the rally now, when you're at, it's January 6th. We heard plenty of stories of Antifa trying to come in there. We already know now that the feds had criminal informants that
Right.
were kind of there doing bad things, and they never were held accountable. We know that there were federal agents actually there too, entrapping people and
Mhm.
inciting people to try to get all we know about Ray Epps and whatnot. So, did you recognize some of these people now?
No, what it was those people who were at the Beverly Hills rallies. I recognized them from a weeks earlier when they were trying to infiltrate. But this time,
Okay.
and this is why it connects to the J6 of the guys pushing other guys forward. This
Okay.
time, when they were on our side, Vantiva started screaming at us. They started screaming back with other MAGA supporters to get us riled up. So, like, if you were standing here going, no, F you guys, they'd be standing right next to you, go, yeah, you guys, F you guys, and that's right, they suck, to get us riled up. And we're sitting there at this point, we have old women, old men, we have children, we have mothers. Like, we're not there to fight. Okay, we're there to go march
Right.
down the street and come back and have a good time, right? And so I get on a microphone and I'm starting to yell at everybody because the crowd slowly starts to come up to the partition like they want to get down. I'm like, no, 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 that's not what we're here for. I'm able to get, me and a few other people were able to get everyone to turn around and go for our walk that we're supposed to do, which ended up saving us from getting into a huge fight with Antifa that the cops ended up kicking out because they got in a fight with reporters. So I noted that they were willing to dress up like us and stand on our side and scream at the other side. So when I saw those guys pushing men, I was like, wait a minute. I'm like, that's weird. Like that's something I saw before. So that
Right.
raised my antenna with that. So I end up leaving. As I'm walking away from the Capitol, there were a couple people walking. I remember looking over in the parking lot where the cars were, and I start laughing. And I turn to somebody. I go, "Man, if this was a BLM rally right now or riot, all these cars would be burning." And then we all kind of had a good laugh about it. Then flew home the next day. Didn't really think anything of it. And when it comes down to, yeah, there was going to be people who got in trouble because I'm sure, like any situation like that, there's going to be a handful that get out of control because it's just human. It's like that mob
Yes.
mentality can do it.
Yes.
So, then the next couple of days, you start hearing the rhetoric. And a lot of things that people miss was that in the House, Nancy Pelosi, they wanted to pass a resolution to label MAGA as terrorists. And if
I
they had
remember
done
that.
that, yeah, you remember.
I never forgot that. I remember that.
Yep. And if they
Yeah,
did
and they didn't
that,
do anything with Antifa. Yeah,
no.
but they wanted to do it wanted to be MAGA, like, but that was gonna be like a house thing, and then
Yes.
and everything. They were gonna label them. The sergeant of arms was involved with all of that and
Oh
everything.
yeah.
I specifically remember that.
Well, and if they were able to pass that resolution, it gives then the FBI and Homeland Security, like, well, Congress believes they are. We're going to start looking at them as if they are.
Absolutely.
And so, as egregious as a lot of people have faced, like JD, myself, and many others, it would have been even worse. There wouldn't have been a warrant needed in order to do these things because now, if you're considered a terrorist, you're
The
an enemy
Patriot Act would
combatant.
have came in. Right. The Patriot Act would have came. They would have used the Patriot Act against you guys and stuff like that, and then all
Yep.
bets were off at that point.
Oh
As
yeah,
we know that the Patriot Act is like I rant about the Patriot Act a lot on this show because
it's
I think
terrible.
that we've given a lot of our freedoms away. They again they threw out this security thing after 9/11 happened,
Right.
and then this is all for security, and it all ended up being ways for them to spy on the American public. It turned the FBI from a criminal justice organization into another intelligence agency
Right.
and whatnot. So it's just, yeah. Anyway, that's
It,
a
it,
whole
it was
other
so it
talk
was
show.
so but it was so, no, you're right, but it's like it you start to see when you look back further, you start to see the little seeds that have been planted, and it just tells me how patient evil is, and we, because we don't move like that, this is not in our nature to be evil. It's harder to it calculate like, oh well, they're doing this to do this, you know, especially you're trying to live your life, you're trying to have a family, but they are patient. They will take their time to chop away at to control, to dominate. So anyway, people are. I start seeing some people getting arrested, and because the nature of what it was, you start to think initially, well, maybe that's one of the people that like fought a cop, or that's somebody who was
Right.
busting down stuff. So I mean,
Because
like,
you kept hearing reports on the news because the propaganda was
yeah,
that it was a violent insurrection. They kept calling you guys insurrectionists, even though there wasn't anybody. The only people who had weapons were the feds and the cops that were
and the
there.
cops
Remember,
over there,
right? They lied about cops dying that day and stuff like that.
right
All the cops that passed away all died from natural causes later.
after.
Afterwards, the only people who died that day was Ashley Babbitt, and was it Susan Boyland was
It was
she
Ashley Babbitt, Roseanne Boylan, Benjamin
Roseanne
P.
Boland.
Phillips, Kevin Greason. Those two guys, last two guys, died of heart attacks at the time because pepper spray was shot at them in that area. So there are four people, 4 Americans died, and you barely hear anything about the one that was caught on tape, the one that was the biggest one.
Listen, yeah, tonight's your night, so you go ahead and if you have to tell their story, tell it. Let
Right.
America know, because
Well,
I will never
that's
silence that story.
yeah, and that's the other thing. Roseanne Boylan in the tunnel, the famous or infamous tunnel,
Yeah.
she was actually beaten and then suffocated to death because all the people trying, because what was happening. Remember, I was talking about how they were trying to push people forward. So the people
Yes.
would get into that area, and then people behind him. And there's one guy, I forget his name off top, and I'm sorry that I did, but he ended up killing himself because they came at him pretty hard for assaulting a police officer. And what happened was people reported being pushed from behind further into the tunnel, while at the same time you have the guards at the other end with their shields pushing forward. So you have then
Mhm.
people who don't know what the hell's going on getting crushed
Getting
like this.
crushed.
And so Boyland was down, and she was a heavy set woman. She wasn't a skinny person, whatever. So she was a big woman. She ends up falling out, suffocating. One guy, Philip, is your black dude. You probably seen him online a lot. He actually was next to her. He was almost trampled to death. He was luckily pulled out. And I'd recently seen this video. If anyone wants to see Nick Searcy's War on Truth, JD was in there as well.
Yeah.
They show the footage, and I know Stop
Yeah, I
Hate.
downloaded that to
Oh
watch
yeah,
that.
watch that. It'll break your heart, brother. What they did, they beat one lady in her head so bad she got brain damage. She couldn't think straight, ends up losing her job, and now she's homeless because she couldn't pay her bills and having to take the plea deal, even though she was the one that got beaten. And there's footage of the cops just beating her over and over. But with Roseanne, they pull her back into the hallway, right inside the Capitol, and they're trying then to perform CPR, but she's already dead by then,
Yeah.
and you never hear anything
The
about her.
the yeah, I saw the video. I've seen video of them working her,
Yeah,
trying
yeah.
to trying to bring her back to life, and that's just a sad thing.
And nothing, and nothing. And
Yeah.
before I even move on from being at the Capitol or the Capitol part alone, I want everyone to start to think like, as much as they work to paint us average people with no weapons and flag poles as those able to overturn or take over I mean, think about how much of a paper tiger you have to be if a bunch of people with flagpoles almost, because that's what they gotta say, they almost overthrew the government. Like, think about how weak you really are, and that's how they try to sell this thing. But what I want people to point to is they're saying like, you did this as a J6, you did that. The Capitol is one of the most secure places on the planet.
That it is.
How did people get in? One, and two, who's in charge of protecting that place? And if they did it wrong, that they allowed people with no weapons to get in there, we need to hold those people accountable. If you were my bodyguard and you let me get stabbed, I'm not going to go, man, it was just the guy who stabbed me, fall and go, hey, Eric, let's go back out again to the dangerous neighborhood.
Yeah.
Like, no, you're
Right. Yeah. Let's go
compromised.
back to the hood with
Yeah.
where I got. Yeah.
It's like, so let's talk about Nancy Pelosi being the one, and most people don't know that the one who's responsible for security at the Capitol is the Speaker of the House. And
Yes.
so why are we not talking about her dereliction of duty when it came down to protecting Capitol?
and we got her on video, right? They recorded her saying that it was a
It
disaster.
was
We
on
should have
me.
had security. We should have all had the National Guard, and it's on me. It's on
Hmm.
us. It's on everybody. And like essentially admitting that they did the wrong thing, right? And
Right.
that was the day of, right? So like she understood she understood what came of her inaction, right? And
Yes.
not doing what she was supposed to do to secure the Capitol. But again, I will say this again. To me, it was one big entrapment
Yeah.
movement, right? Because you have people now. We know you have people who were trying to organize this stuff and getting into these chat rooms and all this other stuff while this
Oh,
stuff was coming about.
yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
and now we know that a lot of these people were criminal informants, the feds themselves and whatnot, in order to get this movement going. So like there were agitators that were part of the government, all right,
Right.
that were helping this come to light.
So, to that point, I'll get to that because I got information to experience some of that as well. So they started arresting people after that. They tried to make us say that we were terrorists. And again, I didn't think anything of it because I've been purposely trying to be very visual, very in your face online and let people know where I'm at, what I'm doing type thing. Like I never want to come off as like he was with this guy and then he disappeared for 3 days and then he came back, smiles. Like no. And so in April of 21, I was heading back to Liberia, West Africa, where my family's from, because my uncle had passed. And so I get to the airport and I go through extra security screening.
Security, right?
But I don't think anything of it because I'm thinking, oh, international flight going to Africa. I get it. Probably some stuff going
Ye-
on, right?
They flagged you.
I was actually not just flagged. I was put on the quiet skies list, and
Yeah, the
so
same list as Tulsi, right?
I had been on that list for 3 years with no charges. So it started in April. I come back and on the way back too. They're doing it on the way back, and I'm just like, this is kind of weird. They're doing it more than usual. And what that consists of is like I have to get to the airport early now. I'm like on my way back on that trip. I missed my flight in Chicago because I came through. The guy checked me and everything. I went through the whole thing. I get down to the gate. There's the head of TSAs, one of the head of TSA standing there, and I'm going through. He goes, "You don't have a stamp." I'm like, "What?" He goes, "How'd you get through?" I'm like, "What do you mean? I went through security." Like, what do you mean? How'd I get through? I didn't drop down through the ceiling. He took me all the way back to go through the whole
Oh
thing
wow.
again. And I'm like, I'm gonna miss my flight, bro. Like, what are you talking? Like, what are you doing? Like, how else did I get here? I was so confused because I had no idea what was going on. I thought it was just a
Right.
random. I thought it
At
was still
at
random at this
at
point.
this point, you still didn't know you're on that list.
Exactly, exactly. So we go through that. I miss my flight, get on another flight, which the Lord works greatly because it actually got me back home earlier than the flight that I was going to be on. And so then as I started to travel more, I think I traveled one more time after that. It happened again. And I'm like, yeah, because in May I went down to Chattanooga and I was like, what's going on? My best friend was there. We're traveling together. I was like, dude, you go, man. I don't want you to miss anything. Like, we had
Right.
no idea this was going to happen. So it consists of me going to the front desk to check my ID with the Secretary of State's office in DC.
Wow.
When I get to the TSA checkpoint, I have to get full pat down and I go through all my stuff. When I get to the gate, there's a whole group of TSA again to give me another full pat down and check through my stuff. If by chance, if I'm hopping on I gotta switch flights and go to another flight after, they follow me. The air marshals follow me from my one plane to the next plane, and then at that gate, there's about 5 or 6 more TSA agents ready to pat me down again.
Wow.
I'll tell you this one instance I had where they were low on people, and I'm like, dude, I got to go through this thing. I got so much security stuff, and they're like, no, we're low on people. They finally come over to get me. I'm rushing over to the gate. There were 8 people at my gate waiting for me. That's why they were low
Oh,
on people back at
that's why they were allowing people because they were at the gate
they're
with
at
the
waiting for
thumbs up
me.
their ass.
Like it was unbelievable. But anyway, I digress. So mind you, at this point, I don't know what's going on. It's happening over and over. Then June 10th of 2021, like 5:45, 6 in the morning, boom. Now we get FBI's running through my house. They come in to grab my best friend first, throw him against the wall. His sons 3 and 6 are staring through their window with their dad against the wall, and AR's pointed to the back of his head like he's a criminal. My other 2 roommates get taken out. My room's at the back of the hall, back of the hallway, so I don't really hear anything initially. Then I start to hear FBI, FBI, and like it's that like you're in a dream state, but reality's kicking in, so you're kind of in this weird like middle ground. And as I start to wake up, I'm like, wait a minute, and I hear FBI. I'm like, you got to be kidding me! Like I'm an actor that's like cracking jokes and saying, what I believe in my heart. To be like, what are you doing here? That's what I'm thinking.
Right.
My dog starts acting up, like, what's going on? And so I open the door, and two agents were on one end. They turned their gun, boom, right at me, just like this. And they just had like the light. All I see is the light and the silhouette of them holding a gun. I'm just like, please don't shoot my dog. That's all I could say. They're like, hands in the air, hands.
Right.
I'm like, all right, please don't shoot my dog. My dog goes running through. They're like, friendly dog, friendly dog. And she's like, thank God she was chill, because
Right. Yeah,
we
they would
know
have they
people.
would have murked her.
Yeah, they would have killed her and not cared. And
Yeah.
they grabbed me, cuffed me, took me outside, and where I lived had like a gate leading into my driveway, so I had to walk around the outside of the gate, and they put me up against the wall of my property, and I'm looking around. I see one guy standing on the fence, aimed down the side of the house, as if anyone runs out to take off, they're gonna pop him. But I'm just like, what the like? I'm just I'm baffled that it's this much, even though I've heard the raids and stuff.
You're an actor, and you're like, this has got to be a movie, right? This is
Yeah,
like
I'm
a
like,
scene
this
from a
is.
movie.
I'm looking. I mean, there's cars all up and down my street, bro. They're like from the LAPD to the sheriffs to the FBI. They're all up and down. I'm just like, are we like again? And this is a part where I wasn't getting as many stories about the individuals who were raided. So the way the raids
Right.
were going, it was more like, okay, what did they do something? Like, what did they do? Now I'm sitting here,
Yeah.
it's happening to me, and I'm like, I know I didn't do shit. Sorry, I mean, I mean, a curse, but I'm like, I know I didn't do anything, right?
That's all right.
And
We're free speech. We're a free speech platform. Go
all
ahead.
right, good. And so they take me inside first. Then they let my dog in. I'm giving a dog. Then they let the kids in. They come and run up and hug me. Then my friend takes the kids to his ex-wives, and my other two roommates who were moving out. They got the dog to hang out with her for a little bit. They take me outside, and they're like, we gotta clear the house. Now, as the guy was cuffing me, taking me outside, I was like, I want to speak to my lawyer. They're like, this is not an arrest. This is not the same thing. I'm like, let me see the warrant. He was like, the warrant. We'll show you the warrant after we clear the house. I was like, well, let me talk to my lawyer. He goes, man, just take it. We'll discuss this in a second. So they take me out back, and I know everyone's saying in the chat, never talk to the police officers and all that. And I'm just like, I didn't do anything. I don't care. Like, this is stupid. And so what I did was they started talking. They're like, so were you on in this Telegram group with Russ Taylor and this other guy? I'm like, yeah. It was like Southern California Patriots, something, something, right? Like
Right.
55 people. I probably know like 8 of them, somewhere around 55 to 60. And I'm like, yeah, why, what's up? He goes, did you see anything about them, what do you say about taking weapons across state lines? I'm like, whoa. I'm like, I just go, man, have you ever been on Telegram? He's like, yep. I'm like, you know what it's like when you don't check your messages for like a day and come back, right?
Yeah, you have
I'm
like
like,
1,000 messages.
yeah. I'm like, dude, I don't have time for that. I got my own stuff going on. Like, I'm not like I'm trying to build, because I knew as I was being louder about what I believe, my career in Hollywood was pretty much over. So I had to
Yeah,
start
we're gonna
to,
get to that too. Yeah.
right? I had to start to revamp and move into a different direction. And so he's like, well, they did such terrible things in there. You should have seen what they did. I go, look, man, the Russ I know didn't seem like that guy. What you know is what you know, but the Russ I know, I don't. And they're like, they got indicted that day. So he got indicted that
Wow.
day. The agent Chad Warrant was like, well, no, I told him like we watch your stuff, you're not violent, so like this wasn't going to be an arrest. It's not what we're doing. It's just a search warrant. I was like, all right, let me see the warrant. They end up eventually finally showing me the warrant after I got back in the house, and they had taken all my stuff that they wanted from my room, my computer, my cell phone, but they had 2 cell phones, my flash drives, a majority of my old headshots on there, my AA journals, and I had like my MAGA hat, right? And I'm like, guys, give me back my hat, man. And they're like, no, we got to take it because we saw you on CCTV as evidence.
Oh God.
I'm like, all right, man. What? Yeah. That's pretty much where I was. I was like, whatever, dude. And I'll tell you the feeling of the agents in there were it's felt like they were going through a training. It didn't feel like they were in El Chapo's house. They were cracking some jokes and doing whatever.
Yeah.
And I'm just like,
But I'm sure there was a feeling of just being violated, man. They're just
Oh
busting
yeah.
into your house.
Oh,
Your roommates have nothing to do with this, and they're getting tossed.
they're getting tossed around.
Your dog's running all over and stuff like that, petrified probably at first,
Right.
because of all the noise in the house and everything like that. Because dogs react to that,
Right.
and it's a violation, man.
Oh, I mean, a violation is, you never know what it's like until it happens, of course. And I didn't know how much it affected me until 2 years later, or a year and a half later. In 2022, I decided to run for state assembly. And I went and spoke at this event down in Orange County, and they were playing Capital Punishment, Nick Searcy's first movie, on January 6th.
Yeah.
And they got to the scenes where they were showing the raids, and I hadn't seen the movie, because I lived it. So I'm like, I don't need to watch it, right? But I'm sitting there
Right.
watching it, bro, and they started to show the scenes of the raid, and my breathing started getting heavy, and it felt tight, and my palms started sweating. I've never experienced what a small taste of PTSD could be until that day.
It's I can tell you from someone who has it myself, from my time in Iraq, I can tell you that it just mine took 10 years to hit me.
Mm,
So I can tell you that it doesn't always hit you right away. People see the movies and think that it's like in the movies, and they think that all of us are running around and we're just batshit crazy and we're just
right.
gonna shoot shit up, and that's not how it works, and that's not how it is. And you had that effect, a year, two
Oof.
years later after it, and it's trust me, it comes when you least expect it, and there's always something that triggers it.
Right.
Watching these videos of seeing other people get raided, and then it just boom, everything that you went through hits you all at once.
Well, and it was a mix, right? Because in the way Nick put it together, he had like the raids, and then he had like the media just lying and saying who
Yeah,
these people were, and it was just a mixed bag. Because for me, after I got raided 2 days later, the L.A. Times, the New York Times, or New York Post, the Daily Caller out there, or Daily Mail out there in England, all wrote Netflix actor raided, and it was just plastered everywhere, and I'm just like.
I remember that.
And I'm like, I knew that's what they were gonna do, because that's what they do. But at the same time, until it happens, you're just like, oh my goodness, And so
Right.
from that moment on, literally after they left my house, me and my buddy went on live right away, and we're just like, this is what happened to us. Look, they're doing to us. This is not right. This is not America. I was really emotional and pissed off. And so, that was a June. As the time's going by now, I'm starting to like reinvent myself. I'm also still doing speeches around town, and people are talking about like they're sending me messages like, "Man, hey, your speech inspired me to run for mayor, to run for school board, all this stuff." And they're like, "When are you going to run?" And I'm just like, "Nah," right? Like in my head, I'm thinking that, but I'm like, well, I can't keep telling people what to do something if I'm not willing to do it myself. And that
Right.
assembly race opened up in my area in North Hollywood. So I was like, at the very least, I can get messaging out, because what I see is that we have a messaging problem. They message everywhere. We only message in the place that already likes us. So then, we just
Yeah.
we hold on to the
Where we're comfortable, we don't go into the hood. It's like I
right,
tell people,
which the
you
hood
feel
is waiting
comfortable,
to
go
hear
into
it.
the hood.
Yeah, they
Yeah.
want to hear it, man. When I was
Yeah.
walking around the neighborhood, I had like 90-some% of people that I talked to said, if you said Democrat, I would ask you to get off my property. I was
Yeah.
like, what? And there's neighbors that I lived in this neighborhood at this point 8 years, and I've knocked on people's door, and there are all these Christians around me. We became friends. I'm like, it's because I ran for office. But I've been walking my neighborhood, not talking to anybody before, because LA kind of
Right.
gives you the sense of, everyone's a liberal. You don't want to, you're the only Trump
Yeah.
supporter or Republican, so
Yeah.
leave
You
it
don't want to
alone.
open your mouth, and especially during that time, up until recently. Right now it's
Yeah.
like a breath of fresh air. People
Yeah.
coming out of the cracks.
Yeah.
Okay, as
All right.
this last election showed. Yeah, because we're
Yeah,
just
let's go.
yeah, the patriotism is coming back. We just need to keep pushing.
Keep pushing. We got to
But
keep staying involved,
so so you've been rated. You explain what went on with January 5th and 6th. You talk about the raid that went on. Now let's talk about your arrest and where they
Mhm.
got you and stuff like that, because that was one of the things that I had been following what was going on with you and stuff like that. But when I found that out and how they did it, that's for me personally, it just made me seethe inside, like, what they did.
Mm. Yeah, thank you. It was. It sucks that you had to feel that, but I thank you for relating. So we had, They had the raid happen. I was running for office. Now, every single time I was flying, unbeknownst to me, I was on a list now. And it wasn't until later that it came out. So when I did the movie Lady Ballers with Daily Wire. And my wife and I, it was the 26th, the 27th, I believe. Yeah, it was 27th. We flew out there. It was really great. We got put up. My wife at that point was 7 months pregnant. So we were getting ready to, expect our first child. And that was our last trip that we were going to take until the baby was born.
Right. Right. Because of her pregnancy.
Yeah, because of her pregnancy. And mind you, they know every time I fly because I have to go through to check. So they know where I'm at for the most part at all times. They know also at this point I'm vice chair of LAGOP, so the largest county in the country. They know that I ran for office, and they know I've been living in a house for almost 9 years at this point. So they know where I'm at. Like, it's not a question. Like, it's not like I'm in and
They
out.
can find you. It's not a problem trying
Exactly.
to find you. Like, they can get you.
Exactly. So, we're coming back, and we're actually on a plane with another friend, Amber, who was in the movie as well. And we're all hanging out, talking and stuff. And it was really that Wednesday was the day that, I think it was a Wednesday. It was the day that Babylon Bee had just released a sketch that I was in making fun of Joe Biden and all his like gibberish words. And so, and when we were about to watch it, and then
It's awesome.
yeah, I love those guys. Shout out to the B. And so we landed at Burbank, which is a smaller airport than LAX. So when you land, you actually get on the tarmac and you walk off. You walk into the inside. So my wife and my friend and my wife, they're walking. They just happen to be a little further up ahead of me. So like I'm kind of like weirdly isolated too, where I'm just kind of by myself. There weren't a bunch of people behind me either. And as I'm coming off the plane, I come out, I look over, and down there's a woman, a white lady with like a badge on. I see her looking up, and I just assumed she had been looking in that area for a little bit. So she's looking up, and I'm like, okay, whatever. And then I look to see my wife, and I'm coming down. As soon as I touch the tarmac, she just comes out of nowhere because I'm not paying attention to where she's at. She comes up and she's like, Siaka Massaquoi. I'm like, yeah. She's like, so-and-so FBI, can you come with us? And then one guy on each side, boom, boom, out of nowhere, boom, grab me. What's going on? Come with us. I'm like, whoa, what is this for? They're like, you know what it's about. I was like, no, what is this for? I look over. The lady, she's walked over to my wife to go tell her to take me away, and it moved. So they start to separate us like that. One guy who's standing in the middle, he's like, you know what's up? I'm like, no, look, you're gonna tell me why you're arresting me and taking me away from my wife. Like that's what you're gonna do.
They gotta tell you.
They're like,
they
it's
have to.
right. And so the guy on the left was kind of shaking, and he's like, it's for January 6th. I was like, I didn't do anything on January 6th. And the guy in front's like, look, hey, come on, keep it quiet. We're not trying to embarrass you. I'm like, it's too late, brother. You guys arrested me at the tarmac. Like, what are you talking about?
As people are coming off the plane.
Like, I'm a bad guy. And they also had 4 airport police officers there just in case.
Oh, man.
I'm like, look, I don't have a gun. You guys are four agents with a gun. I'm not an idiot. Like, I'm not going to do anything, but I can be pissed because this is bullshit. I can be upset. And so they're like, all right. And then, they're like, you're going to have to spend a night in jail tonight. We're going to, we have to take you to court tomorrow. So I go to, they take me to Monterey Park because LA was closed. And that was a blessing because LA is crazy. As they're taking me over, I'm like, how come you guys didn't call me? I was like, you knew where I live, you know all this stuff. You could just call me, like but I know what you're doing it for. You're doing it for headlines. That's what you're doing it for, just like you did with the raid, where you didn't arrest me, but you got the headline you wanted. And as I'm sitting here, the agent said to me after I kept saying this over and over, he goes, "Well, we didn't want you to be prepared." That's what he said to me. I'm like, are you kidding me? And mind you, if you look at the arrest warrant, and all this is public knowledge. If you looked at the arrest warrant, it was issued on November 15th. We didn't leave until the 27th. They didn't arrest me till the 30th. So they waited 2 weeks to do it. Why would you, if I'm so dangerous and all this stuff, why would you wait?
They would have got you right away, right? Like as soon as the warrant is issued, you take off to go get,
get the hardened criminal, right?
Yeah.
So I'm like, they take me to jail that night. Luckily enough, my wife was there with our mutual friend, and then we had a couple who was coming to pick us up, and they stayed with her the entire night. So that was like, thank God for that. Then I'm in their process. When they get me to the jail to process me, I'm sitting there, and the guy finally, because he said, "Well, we'll tell you what you're charged with when you get to the jail." I'm just sitting there, and the guy comes in with a piece of paper, and he looks at me with a straight face, and he's holding it up, and he goes, "So you're charged with this misdemeanor, 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 misdemeanor. And I'm just like we did all this for some misdemeanors? Like, and I could tell he was like, you know, sorry, it sucks, but it is what it is. And I'm just thinking to myself, like, I got raided. And when I'm finally charged almost about 3 years later, they were misdemeanors.
Right.
No, because I was sitting in the car waiting, going, "Man, they're gonna try to put a felony on me." Like,
Yeah,
whew, I'm gonna
right.
have to figure out how to
Your
fight.
mind is racing. Oh, after all of this, they just jammed me up at the airport in front of my wife, in front of the other people that are on the plane,
Right?
and everything like that. Like you said, to get their headline and whatnot, and then they come out with misdemeanors.
Yeah, and I mean, I'm just shocked that we're even in this place right now, right? So they're like, "You're gonna stay the night." I end up having to switch into the jumpsuit. That night, there's no one else in the jail except for me, one drunk in another cell, and the jailer. First thing I do, I get on my knees and I start doing the Lord's Prayer until like I just get tired, right? I do some push-ups, sit-ups to get the energy out too.
Right.
The jailer comes back. She's like, "Hey, is there anything you want to read?" I'm like, "Yeah, if you got a Bible, So she ended up giving me a Bible, and I was able to read the Bible and literally fall asleep with the Bible in my arms. And I've been to jail before from DUIs and stuff, and I messed up before. And this was the first time I ever had a peaceful sleep inside the jail, especially when I wasn't drunk. And I tell you, the Lord was
I
watching
know your
over me.
story a little bit about that too.
Yeah.
I definitely think the Lord was watching over you.
Oh, he was.
But
He was.
that's another talk show though. We can talk
Oof.
about that
Yeah,
some
we can
other
talk
time.
about. No, yeah, we'll get into that later. But then, so to go through the whole process. Fortunate enough, because I think they timed it with the premiere, we
Keep
got more
talking,
eyes.
Siak. I just got to click off really quick because I got to fix something. Keep going.
Yeah, yeah. So when they did that, they got because of the Lady Ballers premiere, it got the right eyes on the situation that a lot of people who were being raided in the dark of night would never have a chance to. So because they were able to do that, I was able to. My friends, got together. They started a Gifts and Go. We can go to defendsiaka.com if anybody wants to go help because our legal fees are still what they are. They're still up there. And so they started that, and right away, I think we hit like $20,000 or $30,000 in the first like
But just so you
24
know, I
hours.
put all your information, all that information is in the description,
Oh,
America.
nice.
So like, if you want to help out Siaka, and his links, every single link that's associated with Siaka is in the description, so you can find him and you can do what it is that you need to do to help him.
Thank you, brother. So we got it all set up. They came out. I told you, we went through. They let me go. I was basically then we started preparing for this case, and for this last, in a sense, because that was November of 23. So it's been a year and some change since they arrested me and we started this process. My initial court date was supposed to be October 15th, but one of my lawyers was or is not was he's a Jewish man, so there's Jewish holidays, so we pushed it out, and they ended up pushing it out to January 21st. So we're all kind of like, oh man, okay, this is yay, thank you, Lord, right? And so we're waiting for the election. Basically, the election to us was going to tell us whether it was going to keep going forward or not. Trump wins the election. We file a motion to push the date out because Trump's been promising day one pardons, especially for nonviolent J6ers like myself.
Right.
And so we file a motion to move it out. The judge won't do it, saying, "Well, no official channels has said it, so we're not going. It's not real yet until somebody official says it." Even though everywhere they're saying this.
Right.
So we're
publicly, it's put on blast.
Everyone knows.
He's giving you the we got to wait for it to be official.
Exactly.
It's the judge's discretion, by the way.
Yeah, no, exactly. Especially the federal judge, because they know what's going on. And so then we had a situation where it was a possibility that it was going to be moved because she had something else, right? That was like a month, like maybe 2 or 3 weeks ago. And so she offered us March 17th or January 22nd. We could start the day after. We say March 17th. The government, the DAs go, no, we're ready to go the day after. So we're like, we have a hearing. We just had a hearing on Friday. And on that Friday hearing, Trump has been saying more things on the record, saying first day pardons, boom, like that. And we're saying, we come back, we have a list of things. The judge had just denied all our motions, including, our selective prosecution motion. Now we're sitting here going, everything's been denied. And now, like, this guy's saying this, and there's a possibility to move it out. We're like, look, We know he's going to do this. This should affect your decision. Like
Right.
if we go to court and 2 days into court, here comes the pardons. You've just wasted everyone's time,
Right.
right?
And
Because we're
money.
and money. Well, and that's the thing. A whistleblower Steve Friend told me that the process is the punishment. Like that's the ultimate punishment. They know they're not going to get
Yes.
people locked up for 4 or 5. Not everyone locked up for 4 or 5 years, but they know most people don't have an extra $50,000 to $100,000 to really defend themselves
Exactly.
over misdemeanors, right?
Right, because they're expecting you, especially because if you don't have the money to make a plea deal or do something so they can get it over with and get that notch on the belt for another conviction.
Exactly. That's the point. And so then they can have that number to go, we've convicted 1,100, 1,200 J6ers. Because remember how we told you it was the worst day since Pearl Harbor and 9/11?
Yeah, yeah,
Like
right.
that's what they did it for. So now, after all that stuff, the judge ruled, nope, we're going to start on the 21st. So as of today, January 15th, 2025, I will have the first day in court of my trial will be January 21st, the day after inauguration. And yeah, man, it's kind of wild to think that they would even still want to participate with kind of everything and how everyone is talking
That's at
from the
the
Trump
behest of the
administration.
Biden administration. The current regime is just adamant about getting as many people as
Yeah.
possible. They're still jamming people up right to the end. They're going to be doing it right to the 19th. And as you
Yep.
see, yours is the day after inauguration. They're still messing with
They're
people.
still going.
Um,
And
so
refuses and refuse to
it,
move.
it's going to take those pardons, and I've said it like ad nauseum on plenty of my shows, that that pardon has to come immediately. I don't even want
Yeah.
to hear it. The summer of love in 2020, Antifa and BLM did billions of dollars of freaking damage, 33 murders. They made no-go zones and all kinds of stuff. Nobody paid for that. I don't want to hear shit when it comes
Yeah.
to the J6.
Well,
Just let them go. I don't want to hear it.
and it's like through a 3 to 5 billion in damage, and then the government had like 1.2 million in damage. And it
Yeah.
goes to show you like the people, a lot of these leftists, how much they actually care about regular Americans because they
Yeah, they
lost their
do.
mind over that over there. But people dying in the street, well, racism. I'm like, nah, dude, you
Yeah,
miss me
yeah.
with that. You miss me with
Well,
that.
listen, well, at the end of the night here, we're gonna pray together because it's a
Yes,
pivotal moment for you.
please.
So I got a prayer, I have a prayer for you, so I'm gonna pray for you at the end of the night. So now, obviously, this has affected your career
Yeah.
significantly, but you mentioned that you essentially walked away from Hollywood at this point, and now you're into a little bit more activism, or are you gonna
Well,
continue to try to get some roles?
so I walked away from the Hollywood machine because I
Okay,
just what I believed in. But some may know me from the Californians Move to Texas, a bunch of sketches I've done with Babylon B. Like we were talking about
those are
earlier.
hilarious.
Yeah, they're
Those are
pretty
hilarious.
they're pretty silly and accurate, right?
They're hilarious.
But at the same time, I'm also I've done the Lady Ballers movie. I was actually in Vindicating Trump. I went all in on Trump and was in the Dinesh D'Souza movie Vindicating Trump, so people can check that out. All scripted, all acting jobs. And then I was fortunate enough to in July get signed. I signed with Daily Wire to be the new face, as some people would know me as Black Jeremy from the Jeremy's Razors commercial.
The
And
funniest,
uh,
brother. Like I said, you came out with
that
that
hair,
perm.
yeah.
Oh my God, man, that perm. I fell out when I saw that.
It's the best, brother. It's the best. But and they've been the best. It's like they didn't have to. I know people think what they want about Daily Wire, and that's their prerogative. But with a big time company, especially coming from Hollywood, and knowing how quickly they will distance themselves from you if you are involved or connected or standing adjacent to something that's not part of the culture. And the fact that Daily Wire offered me a contract while I was still going through this stuff with January 6th was just like it was, it was unreal because I didn't know how I was gonna help, take care of. I mean, I did know in a sense I would hustle, but I didn't know what it was gonna look like to take care of a wife and a
Right.
newborn kid. Right? I didn't know where we are gonna go. My wife, a week after my son's born, it's like you got to get me out of North Hollywood. I'm like, I'm working on it. And
Right.
by the grace of God, a month after that, I signed this contract with Daily Wire, and it allows us to move. We moved over to right outside of Nashville, and everything
Awesome.
changed. Everything just changed, and it's just like if I could
It's like a
tell.
relief when you get out of that
Oh,
liberal cesspool, that pit, right? Like I
oh,
left New York just
so
last month. I
know,
left New York. Yeah, I left New York, and it's like it's just I'm in a free state. and I was able to go ahead and get some special tools. Okay, I
Hmm.
can't say I'm on air. Some special
Yeah.
tools,
Yeah.
like immediately. It was like immediate. I mean, I was
Yeah.
in and out in like a half hour, and I was
Yeah.
like, awesome.
Like like shopping for sneakers, man. Like that's just
Yeah, I
you
was
just
like,
out there doing it.
yeah, and here I'm thinking, because you talked about a DUI. I had a DUI in my 20s, so like,
Yep. Same
I'm
here.
50, I'm 51 now,
Oh,
so
looking good, brother.
it's just been, thank you. It's just been such a long time and whatnot. But I was like, I hope that doesn't like freaking, hold me up or everything. Came back and like the guy says, like the guy keeps walking out with my special tool. He's like, hey, Mr. Soto, let's take you up to the register. Is there anything else you need? And I'm like, yeah, actually, I do need some stuff.
She's like, let me get seven of
So
those. Let me get eight of those, and
yeah, it's just
go ahead and throw
fantastic.
20 of these in the bag.
Yeah, so I get it, man. Being in Nashville, and speaking of Nashville and Eastern Tennessee, people are still suffering from
Yes.
from Helene and whatnot, and Western North Carolina.
Especially in North
Nobody's even
Carolina.
talking about that anymore and stuff like that. Now the government is talking about they're going to give 100% to California, which I don't think that's coming anyway, because like
No.
there's only a few days left, so I don't see that
Yeah.
coming. But
They
look,
said
Trump will take care of
770.
everybody when the time comes. Yeah.
And he better
So all right,
they
so
they better put money on they better put some regulation on that money they give California, because California does this every
absolutely.
year. I've lived there. They do that like it's their job, which is to let the disasters happen, ask for money, and then they just don't,
Yeah.
they
Don't
they,
do what
they
they're
lose the
supposed
money.
to.
Exactly.
They
So
give it, they give healthcare to illegal aliens and all kinds of other stuff and everything that goes
and
on. So,
and they make them police officers in LA and San Francisco. So that's
yeah,
that's
I heard
that's
that. I think they're
yeah.
doing that someplace in Illinois or something like that too.
Yeah,
Is
yeah,
now that's
Chicago.
going to be
Yeah.
yeah, that's great. That's what we need, right? So, all right. So I'm glad to hear that you have something going on. I'm glad the Daily Wire took care of you.
Yeah.
Like you said, regardless of how people feel, I have my own personal issues with them, but that doesn't mean I don't think that they're a force for good ultimately,
Right.
because of the things that they're doing. They took care of Gina Carano when
Yeah.
Hollywood dumped her and stuff
Right.
like that. And to me, I'm a huge Gina Carano fan, and what she went through was just terrible. And they took her
Well,
in, and they made a movie almost immediately with her, right?
yep.
So they do
Well,
still do some good stuff. So
what they do at the end of the day is that from this, what we're facing is cultural liberalism as well as
right,
political, and so if we're going to compete in the culture, we need to create content that can capture the heart, right? Like the
we need a
mind
parallel
stuff.
economy.
Exactly. And right now, Daily Wire is the number one conservative media company in
They are.
in America. So if the regular people aren't supporting them, yeah, there's going to be other people that will come up, but compared to the giants, now we won't have that big. We want to move the culture, and I think they have an opportunity to do that
This
with
is
projects
this
and films.
This is for you, Siaka. This is people
Hey,
who know
Naomi.
you, and this is Noemi. She says, I saw him at a school board meeting when they had all the LGBTQ stuff happening, and we went to go oppose it there. And then she says, Siaka, yeah, let me get that up there. Oh, Jesus. Sorry about that. So Siaka is pretty active when he was in California.
Yeah.
So like people know you, Siaka. So
Yeah.
and that's what I kind of jumped on. When I started seeing who you are, I knew who you were as an actor because I'd seen you in things. But like your activism is what to me, because I know that that's not, like you said, you're bucking the culture right now
Yeah.
in
Yeah.
Hollywood, and I hope more people like you come out. This is why I like Nick Searcy.
Right.
I loved him in Justified as Art Mullen. He was my favorite character on that show.
Yeah. I know. He was so
uh
funny. He was so funny.
I made him laugh. I made him laugh when I told him that. I said, "Man, you were my favorite character on Justified." He started laughing. I hope I could bring him back because I want to talk like Hollywood with him, because he said that
Yeah.
he's going to step away from some of the documentary stuff, and he's got some
Get
acting
back.
stuff coming up and some
Well,
producing
we
and
we were in Vindicating Trump together, and Nick actually recommended me for the part. So let me
awesome.
know when you have him back on. I'd love to come on with him and talk more about that
Oh,
avenue.
absolutely. I'll have to definitely bring him back, for you. And it's like I said, you have an open invitation and say, Eric, I need to talk about some stuff. Tell me and we'll set it up, you
I
know.
love it.
So it's good. But you also have some merch, right? What is that?
Yes.
The new Rebels. So
Yes,
we got
that's a
to
new
add,
rebel.
yeah, we're gonna add that we're gonna watch here that I think is just fantastic. It's phenomenal with your voiceover. It's just like a great thing. So we're gonna get into that really quick, so America could hear it. Again, Everywhere you need to contact Siaka is in the description, and you can click any of the links and you get to his merch as well. So let's get into this really quick ad for you.
Thank you.
It's just a fantastic ad.
This is mostly a protest.
Growing national unrest. Screening passengers for symptoms of a deadly new virus.
Whoever thought we'd get here? Fighting society in ways we never thought we'd have to. Canceled by friends and family. 2 weeks to slow the spread, they said. Well, we're relearning our history that made us great. We're becoming self-sufficient and enjoying the process. We're doing what we were made to do. Only thanks to the grace of God are we reminded what is pure and innocent, what is good and beautiful, what is true and inerrant, what is freedom. What was old is now new. We've become the new rebels.
Thank you.
Right
Yeah, you got me all emotional.
Man. Yeah, man. I mean, because we are the new rebels, right? Like,
Yeah,
legacy media is gone. Okay, I listen. I'll tell you my quick story of what led me to, doing this stuff, and it's a grind, right? I I finally reached over 100 subscribers over in a year. It's taken me. YouTube
I
is a
know.
grind, but it is what
Yeah,
it
it's
is, right?
tough.
I just felt, I've told people before, I felt that, you know, early last year in January, I felt like God was talking to me. I had for a long time not listened to him, and not an evil person. I didn't do evil things to people, and I had a lot of bad things happen to me, and I've lived my life, and I've seen and done things that most people, 99% of people, won't ever do. With my time in the military and whatnot, and I'm glad that 99% of the people won't ever do that. But last year in January, I felt God calling me, right, and I felt like He just put this light on this path, and He told me, hey, you have a voice, you have a
Yeah,
story to tell. Go out there and tell that story. You see what's happening to your country, you understand that it's wrong, you
right.
have to speak up.
Amen.
So i just I opened up, and then I started, right, I just started making short form videos. And then my partner, okay, my co-host who's on Monday and Friday with me, Red Daywalker, Scott Perez, I brought
Oh
him
yeah.
in on this was like October. I was like, hey man, you want to do a live with me? He said, hey, I was kind of looking for to do a live with people. So I brought him on. The show went really good. He came on another next week he came on again, and then finally I was like, dude, you should just stay. Right. And then he started introducing me to other people, right? I've had other influencers come on the show and whatnot, and through him, and I tell him, I was like, bro, I'm like Dana White loyal to you, man, because
Right,
like you've
right.
helped me out. And he always gives me a shout out too, and he tells people, hey, like, Eric brings people on his platform and he's paying for everything. He doesn't ask for anything. He just giving us a platform for people to use our voice. So I felt like God was telling me that hey,
Yep.
and He's put me on the right path. And it's in that ad you said something that was very important about how people canceled you, your lifelong friends, family members, right? My family, fortunately, we've never been on that plantation. You know what I'm
Yeah,
talking
good
about.
for you.
Okay, so
Good for
like,
you.
our my family, we have a few idiots, but we still love them. That it is what it is. And it's just, I have to use my voice, and I'm going to bring other people on to use their voice. And I had to get you on this show, Siaka. I had to, because not only to tell your story, but because of your activism. You know, your your trajectory from what's going on in Hollywood, and where you're headed. It's just, I feel like God's with you, man. God has you in
Oh,
His hands and His
yes.
grace, brother. And He's pointed you in the right direction. And we talked a little. You talked a little bit about AA and whatnot. And I'm not gonna really get into that. That's your story to
We'll
tell.
come back. We'll
Um,
come back to that one. We'll come back to that one.
yeah, but
We'll give it
I
another
feel
time.
yeah, yeah, absolutely, because I know you got to get going soon and stuff like
Yeah,
that. You had
I got
something
to
else to
rock,
say.
but yeah, I got a live space live right now going on. If anyone
All
wants to
right,
check it
so
out,
let
I'll be
me
on there on X. But let's do the prayer
yeah, this
and
is for
rock.
you, brother, because you're at a pivotal moment in your life, man, with your case and stuff like that. So I'm gonna pray for you right here. This is my pivotal moment prayer.
Thank you.
Here you go, man. Father in heaven, we give you praise and glory. Thank you so much for your word. Thank you so much for revealing your heart to us and revealing your will to us. We ask that you please meet us at this moment, because this moment is where we find you. And in this moment is where you find us. Help us to be found by you and help us to know your presence in this moment, in this circumstance, in this season of our lives. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Jesus' name, amen. Thank you. Eric,
That's
my
for you,
man,
brother, man.
I appreciate you. If you have a second, come over to X and join me on this live, and maybe we can continue to talk.
Yeah, man. Yeah, actually, let me pull that up right now before you get
Yeah,
going. You said X,
yeah.
and it's on your channel.
Yes. No, I'm gonna be in it, so you'll see me in it.
Okay.
All right.
All
So
right,
I'm,
and
I'm
then
right
I'll
here.
pop in, brother.
Pop in, my man. Thank you guys for all watching, and hopefully I see you over there. If not, we're gonna do this again.
Yeah, I definitely need to. I definitely need to talk to you because I got something I got to talk to you about anyway. But we'll do that on another day, brother. All right. I'll hit you up on the email.
You got it.
All right, man. Go ahead and take off. You just sign off and whatnot, and I'm gonna what do you call it? Close us out for the night.
Cool. Thank you, brother.
All right, man.
Bye.
Thanks for coming on, brother.
Thank you.
Bye. Well, America, that was Siaka Massaquoi telling his story of J6. He's a good man. Everywhere you need to find him is in the description. Go ahead and hit that link to his webpage. He can use all the help he can get. He still has his case going on, as you heard, on the 21st. He's still the day after the inauguration. They're still messing with him, the government. So it is a good thing. And Naomi, you need me to send you a link? You said, Naomi, you said send you a link. All right, I'll send it to you on what do you call it on Instagram and whatnot. But America, again, thanks for joining us tonight. Thanks for tuning in, hanging out. If you came in a little bit later, please like and subscribe and whatnot, and come back and watch this episode if you hadn't seen it from the beginning. It's very important to hear his story. It's a story of many. We have upwards almost 2,000 Americans that are political prisoners in a gulag in DC and all over the country. And we can't let this happen again. It's a stain on our republic, and we have to make sure we fix it. So, with that said, I am the Big Red One guy, reminding you that together we must break the machine. God bless you all. God bless America, and I will see you all on Friday, fam. Have a good night.